Welcome, everybody, another episode Against the Grain podcast. I want to encourage you guys to subscribe to this channel. This channel has been blowing up the last month or so. We had some amazing videos. We're going to talk about it a little bit, some episodes that have come up. But I encourage you guys, support this channel. We want to do so much more. We need a new desk. We need new items, new equipment that we want to do. But way you guys can support, you can text the phone number 84321. Text your dollar amount to give, and that'll bless us so much. It'll allow us to do more things and bring you guys more content. With that being said, this is episode number 4 of Against the Grain.
Let's go.
Man, we have a special guest today. We got Cristina in the house. I feel like Cristina's like a good like a MVP almost. Like people really like enjoy her and stuff. A lot of good content and stuff. But how you guys doing? How's everybody feeling? How you guys doing?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, your voice is kind of...
I'm recovering. I think it was a combination of yelling loudly, laser tag.
Yeah.
Going pretty crazy in laser tag, talking a lot yesterday. So take a little beating in the voice area.
There you go. And if people are watching right now, they're probably like, what is that noise? There's some crazy fireworks going on in the background. So if people are watching this, we're in a neighborhood here. Nothing crazy, but it's definitely some fireworks. You would think it's like the 4th of July, so I don't know. It's weird.
Different holiday.
You guys are going to hear, unfortunately, you guys are going to hear fireworks, so we apologize, but we're just gonna go for it. But Cristina, how's everything?
Yes.
How you doing?
Everything's good.
Blowing up on TikTok. I don't think
Thank
you been on since you hit 10K? I don't think you have, right?
Yeah, the last time
With
I had
Layla?
just hit 10K. Yeah, but it's so cool because like that last podcast that we did, I posted some of those clips on my TikTok, and then that blew up. So it's really awesome.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, really cool to see just like the different perspectives of just different people, because we were talking about how like Christians shouldn't celebrate Halloween. So we were talking about that. It's a little bit controversial. So posted it out there, being bold. And yeah, it was really cool to see how like so many people were just like going back and forth of like, I agree with this, I don't agree with this. And I didn't even really have to step in. Like everybody in the comments was going back and forth on their own. So just like seeing all of that, it was really cool to see the different perspectives on everything.
Yeah, definitely. Halloween's like a big topic right now, I feel. Cristina, we've kind of got into already. I'm really curious to kind of hear Anthony, kind of hear your take on everything with the whole Halloween thing. Because yeah, on your TikTok, it was crazy because like people were like, you guys are gaslighting Halloween and like all this stuff. Like, you know, that we were going against it. Like, I don't know, it was crazy. But what's your take on it? What's kind of your take on just the overall? We've talked a lot about Halloween, the traditions, everything that I spoke on Thursday about it and everything. But what's kind of your take on it? And just like Christians in general when it comes to Halloween, because obviously we can agree that, okay, it's demonic, it's evil and stuff, but specifically, what's your take on Christians in Halloween? Like, how do we navigate that?
It's big. I've listened to so many people talk about it. So like I've listened to so many voices and then coming to my own conclusion about it. Like I just thought about, what does it mean to celebrate? You know, like what does it mean to celebrate someone or something? Like this week or like last week, right? You had your party. We celebrated your existence, right? Next week, you know, my birthday, we're celebrating my existence. So I think thinking about what does it mean to celebrate something, to praise something, to lift something up, to give attention to something, to focus on something. So I think in terms of like celebrating it and partaking in it, you know, I haven't for years, but there's so many people. Like I listened to a post today and someone's like, it's a trending audio and it said, you know, Halloween is maybe Halloween. I said Halloween, but maybe Halloween, but Halloween is the one day that you can, you know, dress up as like XYZ out of the year and you can be this. And it's an audio. It's actually pretty explicit, but it talks about just being able to basically all of the standards that you would have in a normal relationship with people in a normal living. You can basically one day a year, you're afforded to be able to throw your standards out the window and to be this, you know? And it's a trending audio right now. And so like, I just think that that's the mindset of majority of people. And that's their approach towards it as adults, you know, thinking about that. Kids might be different, but we're leading the kids. So we're giving them a certain example. But my approach to the celebration of things, just in general, like I think that my view on things is more broader and like, okay, what does it even mean to celebrate something? What does it mean to praise something? What does it mean to hallow something? Because it's Hallows Eve, right? We talked about that. How Halloween is actually it's the thing to the thing.
Yeah.
Right. So that was your message on Thursday, which was powerful. But yeah, I think that's my, without going too in depth into detail, it's like, why would we celebrate? Why would we hallow something? Like that's the Lord's Prayer, like hallowed be your name, right?
Wow, yeah.
So why would we hallow something that is intrinsically dark, that is intrinsically spooky, that promotes fear? Like why would we hallow that? So that's basically my question. And I push back, and you have a lot of people who are Christian content creators who swing to the other side, and I'm seeing that too, where people are like, they use Paul's scripture, who says, he goes, to the pure, all things are pure. That's what Paul says. He goes, so how can you judge another master's servant? So Paul has that, and then you have people who are like, therefore, I can do whatever I want. I can do whatever I want. It's smart for me to drink liquid death on my Christian podcast. It's smart for me to go and celebrate Halloween. It's smart for me to go and push the envelope on the other side of things because I can. And I'm like, is that really, if you're using Paul's theology, you should have Paul's heart that says, if eating meat causes my brother to stumble, I won't eat meat again for my entire life. So I just don't like the hypocrisy when I see people who are like, I can use Pauline's theology, but if I'm doing something that caused you to stumble, go watch someone else's content. Like, don't judge my actions. That's my issue with like because like the people on the other side, the people on the other side of the coin, and I'm talking a lot right now, but people on the other side of the coin who are really this is what I see. People who are really anti-Halloween are people who are doing a lot of deliverance ministry. So they're basically saying, listen, don't make my job harder.
Yeah.
Like, don't make me do more deliverances. Like, we see the entrance to people's lives comes through stuff like this. So we're seeing people who are in the deliverance side of the ministry saying, don't do this. You're going to add more to our waiting list, right? And then you have people who really don't do a lot of that, basically saying, I'm free to do whatever. And it's like, yeah, but, the majority of people aren't where Paul was, who he said, I could eat food sacrificed to idols and it doesn't stain my conscience.
Yeah.
But Paul was very advanced as a believer, so that's kind of my take on it.
That's good. I want to piggyback real quick, and then I'll ask you, Christina, kind of what you're seeing on social media and stuff. But I want to piggyback on that because it's something that's super important that you said. And I feel like that's the whole thing when it comes to like Halloween, different things like that, music, movies, all that whole thing of like, should we, from what I see, it's like the people that are like really living holy and righteous, the ones that are in deliverance ministries that are really doing the work of the kingdom and stuff like that, they're always against that. And then you have the Christians that are okay with it. And I look at kind of what they do, kind of like where they're at spiritually, what they're doing in ministry. And it just seems like they're not doing as much as those, like, let's say it's deliverance ministers or like people with like a heart for worship and stuff like that. They're not celebrating those things. So for me, it's just like, I don't know, to me, it's night and day. Like if you want to celebrate and do that stuff, the crowd that does, it just seems like, I'm just going to be honest, like this against the grain. Let's go.
Come on, let's
I
go.
just feel like there's not as much power in their walk when you do stuff like that. The ones that are powerful, that are like moving in deliverance, that are like, all this stuff, they're not doing these things. So for me, it's kind of like, it's pretty night and day. Like it's pretty clear for me. But what are you seeing on, Christine, like on social media and stuff, TikTok, anything like that?
Yeah.
Did you share, I don't know who it was, but did you share a video of John Ramirez about him talking about it? Talk about that real quick, about that video. It's pretty good.
Yeah, so that video, John Ramirez, this is like one of the first videos that I ever watched when I first got saved, because I was like, came from this drastic lifestyle to like, now I'm a Christian and I have to cut a lot of stuff out of my life. And I know that my walk is not like everybody's. Like I was all in New Age to like, one moment all in New Age to next moment all in Christianity, like no compromise. And I know that's not everybody's story, but that was just my walk. And that's how God created me, like to be 100% passionate. So like there was absolutely no compromise when I knew that it came to the things of God. But when I came across John Ramirez, like I understood wholeheartedly that like Christians who are children of light are not supposed to be celebrating darkness. And it seems so simplistic, but like to some people it's just not, just where they're at in their walks. But yeah, John Ramirez talks about how pretty much to sum it up in my words, it's like, if you're a child of God and a child of light, why are you celebrating Halloween? And if you are celebrating Halloween, you're opening a door because you're putting on a costume that represents something demonic. So it's like, if you're putting on a costume embodying something that's demonic, obviously it's going to open the door to to demons. So it's like, if witches and warlocks are out there celebrating Halloween, prepping for Halloween, obviously they're not going to be celebrating Resurrection Sunday. So then why is Christians, honoring God every other day, but on Halloween we allow that compromise of like, let me go honor the devil. And then he also speaks on how the devil says that like thank you for letting your children worship me one night out of the year. Like, thank you guys. That makes my job so much easier.
Who's the guy that said that? Is that the Church of Satan?
Yeah, Anton LaVey.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's the founder of the Church of Satan.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
like one
crazy.
day out of the year, parents get a Christian parent. What was it? I forgot the quote.
Yeah,
Something like that, right?
he was like, thank you, Christian parents, for allowing your kids one day out of the year to worship and celebrate Satan.
That's insane.
Okay, I'm gonna play devil. That word's kind of weird. Devil's advocate, but I'm just gonna okay. I've heard this though. The pushback is this, and we have someone here that got a message on Instagram, and this person was like, wrote back, and this other person was like, the devil doesn't own one day out of the year. Like, stop making it. What was it? It was something like that, right? Our audience. The devil doesn't own a day out of the year. Like, why are we giving? It's kind of like people that will look at us and be like, you guys are like giving that day to Satan, like October 31st. Like, you guys made it like this like day, and it's like Satan shouldn't have any days. What's the response to something like that?
Well, I think one, it's true that he doesn't own any of the days, right? The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Like, the Lord owns all things. But there are, like, if you look at the Jewish calendar, there are days of the year and weeks of the year that are held as more holy or more open than other days of the year. Now, Paul, I remember, I keep going back to Paul because he was basically saying to people, like, whether you think one day is more important than the other day, he said we're all brothers and sisters, right? So like, whether you celebrate or whether you don't, in terms of like the holidays, right? Because that's where he came, like, no Greek, there's no Jew, there's no man, there's no woman, like, we're all one in Christ. So he's breaking down these like religious mindsets, right? But in the Jewish tradition, there are days and weeks that are more holy in terms of your behavior, in terms of your access, in terms of openness, before God. So I think that because the devil does take everything that's in the kingdom and he creates a counterfeit, there is, I mean, even people who are in the dark lifestyle, they talk about the activity, it increases in October, whether it's actually true, therefore they do it, or whether it's they believe it's true and therefore they turn up their activity. Either way, there's more activity from people who are witches, warlocks, things like that. So, it's kind of my approach to it. I don't know too much about like, the full details about that night and the history of like the openness. Cause you mentioned a little bit about like the veil being torn. So
that was crazy. Yeah. So basically if people that are watching this, like, what they were saying, the history of Halloween, how it came to be and stuff, they believe, like, Druids, like Celtic worship, all that, like, they believe that in this time from October 31st to the 1st of November, that literally like a portal opens, and that's when like evil spirits and stuff are able to go out and kind of run rampant, basically. And that's why people would carve pumpkins and like trick-or-treating, all that stuff. It came about because they believe, like, okay, we have to like do things to ward off these evil spirits that are going to come. So we're going to put a pumpkin outside with a candle or something like that. Like, that was one way so it's just crazy that like everything that we do, there's always like, but okay, like when it comes to, let's talk about like harvest, right? A lot of Christian churches will be like, okay, we're going to have a harvest festival on that day and use it to preach the gospel and stuff like that. Here at HCC, like, we don't do that. But I don't know, personally, I'll just say, like, I don't look at churches that do celebrate like a harvest festival type of thing. And like, I don't know, I don't judge them too heavy because I know where their heart's at. And their heart's like, hey, let's like, use this time to, reach the community and stuff like that. So I get that. But for us, we just, like I said on Thursday, we celebrate life. We celebrate deliverance. Like we just got like through a 2.5 months of deliverance on Sundays. We're not about to go and start celebrating like that stuff. You know what I mean? And they do like trunk or treat and stuff like that. Like I said, I'm not here to judge them. We're not here to look down on any church like that. We just don't do it. You know what I mean? So, but it's crazy that people go back and forth. Someone said on your TikTok, we're gaslighting Halloween. Like people are crazy and stuff. Are you seeing anything like on TikTok, social media, anything else that you're seeing like regarding like Halloween? So like, cause they were going crazy in your comments, like back and forth. Like it's so cool though to see like other Christians. Like we don't, I feel sometimes like we can feel alone, like in the things that we believe, but it's pretty cool to see like a lot of Christians actually like kind of on the same page that we are, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really cool to see, just because like there's some Christians who like, I mean, an area of opportunity for them would be grace, you know, just like going back and forth the way that they're correcting people. So it's like, you know, maybe that's not the way I would have said it, but also they're being bold and just blunt about what they believe. So there is a lot of Christians who, like, there was this one specific one where I was like, I'm not even going to get into it, because sometimes, like, I feel like if it's not like people think that if it's not specifically named or specifically detailed in the Bible, then they can do it. So I've seen, like, I saw a comment where it's like, you know, what you're saying is wrong. Like, as a Christian, I celebrate Halloween, and what you're saying is just not biblical. But it's like, where in the Bible does it say to glorify Satan? You know, where in the Bible does it say to celebrate with demons? Like, it doesn't say that in the Bible, you know? So I feel like sometimes people can get very, like, I guess, legalistic, and not like I don't know if like legalistic is good at all, but like in a very like, show me the scripture where it says don't celebrate Halloween. Like it doesn't say that specifically in the Bible, because who knows, maybe they didn't even have Halloween back then, you know? So who knows? But yeah, people are just like, I've noticed that the thing where like, if they're against it, it's like, it doesn't say it in the Bible, but it's like, but yeah, it also doesn't say to glorify, you know, the kingdom of darkness either.
Yeah.
But back to what you were saying, Manny, about like the devil owning that day, I feel like he might not necessarily own the day, but also at the same time, it's like, if we as humans are giving him the day and like giving him the opportunity to like be glorified in that day, like he might not actually like by law own the day, but he is owning your free will that day if you're giving it to him, if you're just submitting it to him. So it really just depends, and that's why we have free will. That's why God gives us the free will, you know. But if you're openly just worshiping him and honoring him, then of course he's gonna have a huge open door to your life.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's true. There's a lot of things that like maybe like Satan's not taking, but we're giving him willingly. So that's a good point that you're making. I don't know if I shared this on a podcast already. I hate like repeating stories, but Anthony, maybe you can fact check me. Did I share? Because I shared one time about when Andrea and I went to Hollywood on October 31st, and we saw like people walking around. Did I share that on a podcast?
You did share that.
Or was that on stage? Was that on this service? I can't remember.
No, that was a podcast. That was a podcast with Layla.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But like that was crazy. Like there's people that really do some real witchcraft on that day. Like it's a real thing, and we just like we kind of play games with it. We kind of make it like a Christian thing, you know what I mean? Like all that stuff. But it's like there's people that are really taking it serious that day. Yeah. Like it's crazy. Like just yesterday, actually, I was you know, packing up the warehouse and stuff like that, and it was about 11 o'clock or so, and usually at night when it comes to like doing Uber and stuff like that, like at night there's a lot of like bonuses and stuff because there's a lot of people wanting rides, but then there's not a lot of drivers, so it's this whole thing, right? So then I was driving back home, it was about 11 o'clock. I was like, I'm just gonna check to see like what are the bonuses in the area. It was like $20 extra per ride, which is basically, if like real quick, like when it comes to bonuses in this Uber app, like if you're a driver, you get a $20 bonus on top of like the fare and the tip that you're going to get. So if I do like, let's say I do like 2 rides in an hour, which I can do like in this area, you could probably do like 3 or even 4 rides in an hour. Then that's an extra, like if it's $20 extra, that's like what, like 60, 80 bucks extra per hour on top of what you were already going to get. So it was like crazy, right? So I was driving home. I was like, man, like I kind of feel like I want to text Andrea and be like, hey, I want to like clock in real quick, you know? But it was so crazy. So I'm like driving home and I'm like thinking about it, I'm looking at it, and then something told me, like literally in my spirit was like, no joke. I was like, I felt like, no, like don't do it and stuff. I felt like, and then I just remember for some reason, I remember like Halloween weekend and stuff, and that people were like at parties because it's about 11 o'clock and the demand was super high. So when the demand's high, there's not a lot of drivers. That's why they'll do that bonus. So drivers that are at home can see that and be like $20 extra per hour, like per ride. That's crazy, you know?
Right.
So anyways, I felt that. And so I go home like, okay, I'm not going to do it. And so I'm just going to go home and stuff. Went home this morning. I'm getting to church and stuff. I'm on Facebook, and literally like only like a couple blocks away, like here in West Covina, there was like a shooting and stuff. And it was at that it was like around 11 or 12 o'clock at night, and like 4 people died and stuff like that. And I'm just thinking like, man, it was like a Halloween party. Yeah, it was a Halloween party. It got shot up, all this stuff. And I was like, whoa, like I could have maybe somehow, I mean, who knows the chances of me actually being there, giving that person a ride, whatever. But I know people were getting rides last night to go to parties and stuff. And I was just like, I don't know, I just felt in my spirit. I was like, wow, like this whole, and I know people die on different days, but that specifically was like someone got gunned down because of a Halloween party. Like it's crazy what the enemy's doing. The enemy's taking people out, and we're over here as Christians. Sometimes we play games with it. Like it's just crazy. It's bigger than what we think, honestly.
Can I say something about that? Like you just brought up, first of all, good job for following the prompting of the spirit. Like what?
It was a struggle.
You're
like,
here today. Thank
right
God.
there.
Thank God you're here today. Wow.
I was looking at that bonus. It looked good. But
well, thank you for doing that, because there'd be so much calamity from that. That would be, I don't even want to go down that road. But so number one, thank you for doing that. Number two, I think about so it's interesting, right? So you talk about like people getting shot up, people shooting people up on Halloween, during costume parties, things like that. I recognized, and this can go into a really big discussion, but the last 2 years about, I don't even know if they're gonna cancel it, but the 19, we'll call it the 19, right? Do you know what I'm talking about, Christina? No. The 19? The pandemic. The 19.
Oh, okay. I was like, the 19.
That's probably backwards. DIVOC. You can't even say that word without getting like canceled.
I know. Like, are they going to transcribe? I don't know. Hopefully not.
What conference is that? We're always at conferences.
But oh man, but during that time, right? Like, I recognize this. Banks up until 2019 would never allow anybody to come into a bank with a mask on, and then they required people to come in with a mask on, right? But what I recognized is when I talked to people in public or whatever it was, when they had just a simple face covering on, it almost gave them this sense of permission to act a fool or to act a certain way, almost to like take your guard down a certain way because you weren't fully seen. You weren't fully visible. Like your identity was protected to a degree. So it's like, I'm anonymous. Like I can say what I want to say. Like I can finally say what I want to say without, without being confronted face to face. Right. And I felt that. I personally felt that too, almost like, whoa, like I'm not fully recognized for who I am. So therefore people were going in and stealing stuff. And it's like, I can't get pinned down. Nobody knows my identity. So go even further than that into having a full blown costume, having a full blown face mask, putting on an entire different mask. Like you're giving yourself permission to act however you want, And so I'm not surprised that someone at a Halloween party where they're dressed to the nines. They got the mask on, they got the paint, they got everything going on, that they feel like certain boundaries that they would normally abide by are just down and they're gone. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, it's wild. It's crazy out there. I want to say like, when it comes to that and stuff, when it comes to like deliverance and everything, we just got done, like I said, 10 weeks, 2.5 months of just talking about deliverance and stuff. It's such a blessing to be in a place like this, like coming to a church like this. Jay, shout out to Jay. We're going to have him on the podcast soon. I told him. So it's already said, so it's got to happen now. But, we're going to have him on a podcast. But he has like family and stuff that, and I don't want to give too much away, but that got touched here. And there's just so much happening right now in the spirit, good and bad. So right now I feel like, and Monica just shared this with me yesterday. She was like, man, like I feel such an acceleration in the spirit. But it's like good and bad in a sense of like, and I was sharing this earlier this morning, where it's like right now there's so much that's happening in the evil realm, demonic, all that stuff. Crazy things are happening, but God is almost turning things up like in the spiritual. We've been noticing crazy things here at the warehouse, crazy things at the women's club for Sundays. I just feel like, and even for us, we've like really like had a lot of confirmation. There's been things where like we'll say, and it's just like, oh, I got a dream of that. Or like this, like the amount of things that are happening. And so many people come to me after I preach and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you preached about this and that. This morning, I just saw a podcast about this, or I just saw that. And it's just like, it just feels right now, there's so much confirmations that are happening all over the place. Like, it is wild. It is wild. So I just want to say, like, if anyone's watching this and stuff, like, they need to get it together, get right, because it just feels like it's like what's happening right now, it's good for those that are doing good, and then it's going to be really bad for those that are doing bad.
Yeah.
Like, it's like there's no more time. And we've been saying this, like, God's going to come back, all this stuff, but I feel like it's like literally happening right now. We were talking about Kanye West earlier.
Yeah.
You know, Kanye West is like a huge thing right now. Talk to us a little bit about that, because Kanye West is huge, you know, huge even before 2019 and his whole Jesus thing kind of coming up. And then he broke the internet with everything about Christ, doing a Jesus album. And all of a sudden now he's like basically being canceled and stuff. We've talked a lot about like people have of faith and people like, you know, that are famous that are coming to Christ. There's just a lot of stuff there. But talk to us a little bit about Kanye West, kind of what's happening right now. I think it'd be good to kind of dive into.
Yeah. Yeah. First of all, I love Kanye as a person. Like, when his first album came out with what was it? Jesus is King, right?
Yeah.
Was that his first like major? I know he did Jesus Walks like way back in the day, right?
Yeah.
And I used to bump that, and I wasn't a Christian, but it was just like it was bumpy, you know? Like it got things moving. But I wasn't really in tune when he came out with the Jesus is King album, although the merch was crazy. Everybody was wearing the merch. The blue label of his album was everywhere.
Yeah.
But his progression, so like you see the seeds of the Lord way back in his music, and he was still doing crazy stuff, right? So it's almost been like, it has been a Jesus walk for him. It might have been backslidden for years.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, he's really pressing in, and he has been pressing in, and he took a really strong stance. He did the Sunday services, which I think he's still doing, but he did the album. He started becoming very bold. He started getting with all these pastors, right? And I watched it. You know, when you watch like the progression, you see things, right? And he going from pastor to pastor to pastor, having Sunday service, the albums, getting on major labels and speaking and you know, doing all these things. And then you started to see like major breakdowns, meltdowns, warfare in his life. Out of that, I think he got divorced. I think that's official. He got divorced. Recently, he just said some stuff, and he got dropped by Adidas, you know, which is huge, a huge deal. But yeah, that's kind of like just the overview of kind of his journey up to now. I personally have, like, just because God has spoken to me about Kanye, I personally have a different view, because I'm like, okay, God's working on him. Like, there's hope for him. Like, God's breaking him to a place where he's able to just really receive. That's what I see is happening right now, because he's kind of lashing out. It feels like to me like he's lashing out. It feels like he's not being heard.
Yeah.
And when you're creative like that, like, he's doing wild stuff. He's getting up on tables in conference rooms with major professionals, and he's saying wild stuff, and he's just trying to be heard.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's where I see him at. I'm seeing a creative genius in a lot of ways, being very frustrated and fed up with like having to play by the rules. And so he's just gone the other way, broken them. And then people are like, you broke the rules, we can't associate with you. And now he's seeing some consequence to that. But I think it's bringing him to a place where he's kind of humbled, you know, and I'm excited for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my take.
It's crazy. Like, if, you know, people that don't know and stuff, like, he was canceled by like Chase Bank, which is just crazy. Like, how do you get canceled by a bank?
A bank.
That is crazy. A whole bank. Yeah. I think they canceled his thing. I mean, they gave him his money back and everything, but that's crazy to get canceled by a bank. He loses Adidas, just all this stuff that's happening. I just bring him up because, yeah, like, you know, he's had the whole Jesus thing, and, you know, he was doing that, and all of a sudden now it just, I don't know, it's crazy because I really am rooting for him, but it's just crazy. It's kind of sad that, like, because I was watching, you know, stuff on social media and stuff, and people are like, oh, like, Christians, what's your response to this? Like, this was your Lord and Savior in 2019, 2020, and now he's like doing all this crazy stuff, saying like supposedly anti-Semitic things against the Jews and stuff like that, which basically, if people haven't seen that or heard about it, basically he was saying like, you know, I'm going to go DEFCON 3 on, you know, on the Jewish people basically. But from what, you know, kind of understanding more, you know, and someone else was backing me up on this as far as like that it was true, was that they say that a lot of Jewish people own like Hollywood, which I never knew that. I never knew that and stuff. Like, a lot of Hollywood and stuff's run by like Jewish people and stuff, which is crazy. So he was kind of saying like, I'm going against Hollywood, I'm going against like that. And then, but the Jews are also like involved in that. So it wasn't specifically like Jewish people or even like Christ like that. It was more like the Hollywood thing because it's run by like Jews, which I had no clue. Like, have you guys ever heard of that before? I had no clue. Yeah. And I guess it's true. Like I asked somebody.
You have, Anthony.
You knew about that?
I have heard about that.
Never heard about that.
Yeah. Like, but like the backing for a lot of like music industry, even in the film and like movie industry, that the Jewish people are like backing that. And then in terms of like the financial world, because like Chase Bank canceled them, right?
Yeah.
So like in the financial world, we know that the Jewish people, like they're a very minority population, but they own a majority of like the percentage of the finances, even in like all of America.
That's crazy.
But then it makes sense because he just posted this thing though too, which is interesting. I'm like, what is he trying to say too? Because I think he also is trying to speak, like he's so blunt and so brash, but then he also has like he drops these little hints, right? He said at the end of the day, it was a picture, like I think he posted it today, and it said at the end of the day, I trust in my Lord Jesus Christ, the King or the God of Israel. So I was like, this is interesting because he's saying like, no, my God is the God of Israel, the God of the Jewish people. So I think he's trying to balance out what he's saying, or maybe he's trying to like backtrack a little bit, or maybe he doesn't take anything back and he's just saying, I said what I said. He's kind of like, he's a bull, he kind of breaks stuff sometimes, and he's very bold,
For sure.
So,
and Dre was showing me some of his Instagram stuff, and it's so funny. He's like cussing, saying all this stuff, and then the caption is just like God is love. Like what? Like you're just straight up cussing people out, calling people out. It's like God is love.
Kanye.
Like, well, that's crazy. I want to talk about something real quick when it comes to Kanye, because him and Candace Owens, they had this thing where it's like White Lives Matter. Do you guys see this?
I did see that.
You haven't seen this?
No.
Yeah, so BLM, Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
He wore, and this was only just a couple weeks ago, which is crazy. You would thought he did that like in 2020 or even last year. But just like a couple weeks ago, I guess he was wearing like a shirt or something that said like White Lives Matter, which is kind of like going against like BLM, you know what I mean? And people were like arguing on that, going back and forth. He was saying it wasn't like anything racist, it was more just like attacking BLM specifically. There's just a lot going back and forth. But I want to segue with that because I feel like us, like, the church and stuff, I feel like we don't talk about racism very much, or even race. Like we kind of stay away from it. And even more so, I think like even in the churches that we have, it's kind of crazy if you look at like churches in general, like we kind of like gravitate with each other, like our communities. Like there's a very Hispanic, all the cities around here is very Hispanic. Yeah. Los Angeles, very Hispanic. So of course we're going to have a lot of like Hispanic people in our church and stuff. And you do have some segregation in the church when it comes to like, in South Central, different places in LA, there's like all black churches, there's Spanish churches. Obviously it's going to be Hispanic, stuff like that. In the more maybe affluent areas, Beverly Hills and stuff, you're going to see more like Caucasians and Asians maybe and stuff like that. Yeah. So there's definitely like that. But what is your guys' response when it comes to like racism, when it comes to like, what's the church's like response to that? Because a lot of people are saying like, with Kanye West, like, oh, he's racist, he's things like that. Like, I feel like we just don't talk about racism very much when it comes to the church. Specifically with BLM, I think there's a lot of agendas that they have and stuff like that. But even like the whole George Floyd thing, I know a lot of pastors were like, on support with BLM and stuff like that and everything. I don't know. I just feel like we don't talk about it enough. So I kind of want to, I know it's a can of worms, but let's talk about it. Like, Cristina, like what are your kind of takes on like just racism in general? How do we navigate that? What's the church's response? Like, have you seen anything on social media about it? Like, I don't know. Let's kind of open it up.
Yeah. I remember when BLM first happened, when it was like 2019, when the whole like, super politics, like, cause it was election year that year. And then BLM happened, and in the beginning I was super like, because I think it was like before I even got saved, BLM came out. So I was super like, for lack of a better term, I'll just use brainwashed, but I was still like deep in New Age. BLM was coming out, everybody was just like, yeah, BLM, Democratic Party, like, let's go. And I was like, okay, just like following the crowd, not really doing any just like research for myself. But the more I got like introduced to the truth, I understood that there really was an agenda behind the whole George Floyd thing, behind the whole BLM thing. And it's so crazy to see just how, especially working, like, so I work at a bank, and, we're front line with just so many different clienteles, and there's just so many different people with just different perspectives, and they kind of just throw their perspective on you. And if you don't agree with them, you're just like, you're done. You're done. So it's so interesting to see, but there's definitely an agenda behind BLM, you know, not to get too much into it, but there's definitely an agenda. Yeah. And I feel like it's being pushed, you know, it's like they want to cancel just like white people in general, but then it's like they're pushing Black people on us. So it's like, it's kind of interesting, but yeah, I mean, in the church, I haven't seen too much of it, you know, thank God. We're a very welcoming, loving church. I've never seen any, you know, racism like that on social media. I haven't seen much of it either. But yeah, I mean, all I can say is like there is an agenda, but I haven't really seen much of it like up front. So yeah, we'll see how it goes in the years to come. But yeah, I'm grateful that I haven't seen too much up front, because honestly, I don't even know how I would react if I went to see it in person.
Yeah. I'll give you a chance to share, Anthony, too, on that, because I think it's good. But I what I've seen, like I have seen like you know, when it comes to like Christian like pastors and leaders and stuff like that, there's definitely people that I've seen on social media that I can think about right now that are very like Trump, very like against Joe Biden, even as far as saying like, let's go Brandon and stuff like that. And like, if you know what that means, it's basically like the F word for Joe Biden, like saying that. And it's like pastors are literally like, let's go Brandon, like saying that. And it's like, you know what that means. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I definitely think it's out there. And I think like, it's funny. It's almost like we're kind of in the middle where it's like, we're not super like BLM, like all that stuff, but obviously we support like minorities and we're minorities ourselves and stuff like that. We have that, but I think like as a church, it's nice to be like, we're not super like Trump and everything. 'Cause there's pastors that are really like that. And they'll preach that from the pulpit, like super like, you know, Trump's like an amazing man of God and all that stuff. And it's like I know he has Christian values, but I wouldn't go as far as say he's like this super Christian and stuff, which is cool. 'Cause like he's been to church, like I think in Las Vegas, I think where Derek Carr goes, I've never seen like a picture of him at church and he's like worshiping and stuff, you know, it's just cool. You know, he's right there, you know, doing his little dance, you know, whatever. But like, so it's cool, but I don't know. I wouldn't go as far as to be like, Trump's like our Lord and Savior. And I feel like a lot of some pastors are like that, you know? Yeah. And then some pastors on their side. I love that Harvest Time, for the most part, we're always kind of like down the middle. Yeah. Like we're not super crazy on one side, you know what I mean? But yeah, what's your take on that? And I'm gonna give Anthony permission from a minority to someone that's half white, right? Because you're mixed, right? I am. So I'm giving him permission. I'm co-signing him right now. He is allowed to share on this. He's not racist or anything like that. Because people are like crazy like that. Like, how can a white person? So no, I'm co-signing him right now as a minority. So Anthony, you have permission.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate it.
Take it away. Talk to us about it, man.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's. I'm Chinese, so I got a little Asian in me, so there's that. But it's interesting because you see, like you talk about the agendas, right? And I think it plays back into our conversation about Halloween. Like there's people who, I think it comes down to this, like people who live their micro decisions in light of macro agendas. So what I mean by that is like people who see a macro agenda in BLM and they'll never say the words Black Lives Matter because they're like, I will insert myself into an agenda and I'm not doing that. Then there's other people who like almost don't think about like the macro perspective and they're just like, no, but Black lives do matter. And it's like the person who's looking at the macro and making their decision about their micro decisions through that lens, they're not saying that Black lives don't matter. They're just saying, if I say those words, they don't really mean what they actually are saying. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like that comes the same way with like Halloween too. People who are like pro Halloween are basically like, I almost disregard the macro agenda that's happening and I'm just sovereign in and of myself. And it's like, but don't you realize you're part of like the world doesn't revolve around you, number one. And number two, like whether you do understand or not, you are actually part of a bigger storyline. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think the same thing goes when I saw pastors like really be BLM, you know, they were like really strong for it. Their intention was to try to say like like take the organization, like let's go 2018 or 2017 when it wasn't like a thing, right? Yeah. If I said Black lives Black people matter, and the lives of Black people matter.
Yeah.
Of course they do. Like,
What are you saying,
no one's ever,
bro?
no one's not like God. Jesus died for every single, like, like technically yellow, right? Asian, like God, like he died for me, like he died for Native Americans. He died. Of course they do. No one in their right mind is arguing that, right? Yeah. But then when it comes to the agenda, you have pastors who are saying like BLM, and it's like you're saying something, but you're saying something else because of what it's attached to right now. So, and then when it comes into the church, where churches are like heralding one side or the other, you know, like, do you know who Dr. Michael Brown? I'm going to say a name, Dr. Michael Brown. He's he's a charismatic theologian who really, he's got a show called On the Line of Fire. So he has call-ins, like, you know, like live podcast. And he really walks that line pretty finely, I would say. And he came out with a book basically called the was it called? Like the politicization. Like,
that's a crazy word.
Yeah, like
word.
I can't. It's like it's that word of the church, and basically like the nationalism, like Christian nationalism. And he came out with this book and about how this is coming against the body of Christ right now, and how people are like looking at the gospel through the lens of their political party.
That's good.
And he basically comes back to like, don't you remember what Paul said? Like, there's no Greek and there's no Jew in Christ. You know, there's no slave and there's no free person. Like, we're all in Christ. So yeah, that's what and then when it comes to Kanye wearing the White Lives Matter shirt with Candace Owens.
Yeah.
It's like,
And they're both black.
Yeah. They're both black. So it's like, they're saying that it'd be one thing if they're saying my life matters, right? Like black life, but they're saying literally white lives matter. They're not even talking about themselves. Of course, they're coming against an agenda, right? But I saw a text that one of the texts Kanye posted on his Instagram that he's been posting a lot. I don't know if you know that. He's been taking texts, people texting him, and he's been posting it on Instagram.
Oh, wow. Stirring the pot.
Stirring the pot.
I haven't seen this new one.
So what he said was his father texted him and said, "White lives matter, ha ha ha," and his dad was a Black Panther.
Oh wow!
He's an ex Black Panther, and Kanye said, "I thought it was funny too. What did you think was funny about it?" And he goes, "Just a black man stating the obvious." And I was like, "Oh man, like, yeah." At the end of the day, yeah. But it's like, are they creating another agenda to counter the agenda? And I think that's like the issue right now is we're trying to fight fire with fire. It looks like there's an agenda, so we have to create an agenda to fight the agenda. And I love that's what you're saying about Harvest Time is like, we don't get into all of that. Like, we're not going to create a movement to fight a movement. We're just we're going to walk in the truth. And we're going to walk the line, and we're going to stay in that place that's safe in the kingdom.
Yeah. Keeping a kingdom.
That's it. Right?
Like, we big chilling over here.
We big chilling.
But it's crazy, but on certain things, we're very one-sided. Like, if you talk about like righteousness or holiness, we're very one-sided. I feel like we have a good balance of like what we should be, you know, a hard stance, and what we should just be like, all right, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, it's crazy. Yeah, I love both of your guys' points on that. It's so good. And like I said, I feel like with the church, like, we don't talk about it very much, or if we do, it's just like, vote Trump, you know what I mean? Or like BLM, and it's like this whole thing. I just feel like as like a society right now, I feel like we've never been as divided as we are. Like, it is crazy right now.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And then there's just so much other things happening. I'm like, what a time we're living in. Like, Elon Musk just bought Twitter. Like, that is crazy. So that's a whole thing. Like, and that just happened. So I know by the next time we do like a podcast, something there is gonna be wild. Like, when it comes to Twitter and stuff. But I just feel like there's just a lot happening right now, and as a church, I just feel like we need to be in a position to be like, all right, this is like kind of like what we stand, like we're standing on truth. You know what I mean? I feel like we're in a time right now where it's like everyone's just believing whatever they want to believe. Whatever's good for you is not good for the other person. It's just like, and I shared this. I was like, I think on the last podcast when I was with Mike, that was a crazy podcast. I need to say, like, you know, it's been a month. That was actually our last podcast with me and Mike and stuff, and it's been a month now. But we've received so much like feedback. It's been so amazing, kind of back and forth. But going back to it, I just feel like we need to be like set on like what we believe, because the world is looking for answers right now. Like I said, we're so divided. There's so many opinions out there right now. I feel like social media allows people to just have so many voices, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's just wild, but we need to have like a firm standpoint. Like, this is what we believe. This is biblical. Like, we need to stand on it. And I feel like the hour is definitely here where it's like, it's very one way or the other.
I agree.
I want to transition a little bit just on what has transpired since the last podcast, and that is Maverick City. It's been crazy what's happening, and I just want to I want to get your guys' take on it, because I'm not gonna say like we're super important and they watch this, but but I'll just say it like this. We were Mike and I were talking about music. We were talking about living righteous. We were talking about Maverick City and their worship leaders and what they were doing and stuff. And literally the week we dropped that episode on a Monday, I think it was Tuesday night, is Dante Bowe from Maverick City. They ended up, pausing their relationship, what they call it, which I'm just like, I don't want to say they fired him or anything like that. There's like, okay, we're taking a break on our relationship and everything. Like I said, I'm not saying that they watch our podcast or contributed to it, but it was just crazy for me to be like, whoa, like we just talked about this on Sunday night, we dropped it Monday, and then by Tuesday things happen, you know what I mean? But like I said, I just feel like as where we're at right now as a church, like we need to be very, very clear on what we believe and have a hard standpoint on it, because people are watching us. Yes. And we like what people are seeing on social media from us, like it's important right now. But what's your guys', I know it's been a month now since it's happened, but what was your guys' kind of take on the whole Mavericks? Did you guys hear about it? Like what was your guys' kind of take on that? And then even like the podcast that we had, like you guys can talk about it.
So it's so funny. I was like picking out what to wear today, and I was like, should I wear my Maverick sweater? I was like, I don't know, because the last podcast.
Not that we don't support them anymore. People are like, do we listen to them now? Can we play them? Let's just let the record reflect. Right. Like, we're still playing Maverick City worship songs. Even we did it today and stuff like that. So I just want to make sure everyone's clear. We're not canceling Maverick City and stuff. The message is still good. Maybe personally we're gonna disagree with them, but yeah, that's a good. I'm glad you said that though, because a lot of people are like, it feels kind of weird right now. Like, do we support them? Do we not? It's just kind of weird. Yeah, but that's funny.
So I was like, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't. But not that I don't support Maverick. I love Maverick. I think that whole situation was crazy, and then I love that you guys talked about it, and we got two different perspectives on it. And I think it just goes back to like, as Christians, like, there's just like, we can't have any gray area. Like there's just, we can't afford to have compromise right now. Not in the times that we're living in. Like we just can't afford to have compromise, and given, if we're human, if we fall short, there's grace, right? But if you're continuously living your life out that way, where it's like, oh, there's grace, like, oh, this is fine. So it's good. Like, you're going to come face to face with God one day. And what are you going to tell him? Like, God, I lived a life of compromise. Like, you have to really think about these things. And so like Bad Bunny is like, if you've seen his music videos, like his music is not like clean music. Like what he's promoting is not, and then also too, as a male, he promotes a lot of feminism. Himself as a male, he, does his nails, dresses very feminine, just a lot of things. There's a lot of confusion that comes along with, listening to Bad Bunny. So for someone who is promoting God and promoting, the kingdom of God, where, there shouldn't be compromise and there shouldn't be dabbling in the world, and someone on such a huge platform, I didn't think it was okay for them to be, partying to Bad Bunny, or just like, dancing to Bad Bunny, for music like that can open doors, and then not only just that, but then putting it on their social media platforms to where their followers and their fans can see that. People who look up to them and say like, oh, if Maverick City's doing it, Dante Bowe's doing it, then I can do it. Then I can listen to Bad Bunny, so then there's nothing wrong with me doing it. So I think that was like a big thing. And so when I listened to the podcast, I think I actually first, Manny, I didn't listen to it that same day. I listened to it that same week, but then you posted. I'm sorry. I did listen to it that same week. I'm sorry, but then I saw all of your posts. Like I saw from the moment where like Maverick City posted that to where you were like, oh, what do you guys think about this? And then is it Aaron Moses? Is that his name? His response. I saw that. And then I saw when you posted about the podcast episode. And then I saw when you posted about how Maverick City like said that they were done, putting a pause on their relationship with Dante Bowe. So I definitely think that, you know, we got to see that our actions have consequences, you know, that it's not our lives. Like, we can't do whatever we want, but when we give our lives to Christ, we're giving our lives to Christ. It's not just, I'm going to give my life to you, God, but I'm still going to listen to this artist that is, like, for lack of a better term, demonic or satanic, you know? I mean, he's not like blatantly worshiping the devil, but also too, like, if you've seen his music videos, he kind of sort of is, you know? So yeah, I think it just goes to show that that's kind of what, like, living a life of compromise can lead up to. And of course there's grace. You know, a lot of Christians were saying that, like, we shouldn't be coming at him this way. We should be coming at him with grace, which I do agree, you know? But then there also needs to be correction that takes place, you know? So that's kind of my take on it.
That's good.
It's really good. It's really good. I love what you said. What you said in the beginning was what was in my heart to say, which was basically, you said, is grace a license to continue on in dabbling in the gray area? Is that what grace really is, you know? And grace is to empower you to live a righteous life, right? And I think that if you're going to be in that space, it is a difficult walk. Like, if you're going to be that well known, all the more you need to have intercessors and people covering you in prayer, and you need to be connected to a local church. We talk about it all the time. Like, you need to be plugged in. Like, the higher you go, people, there's the phrase, like, higher levels, higher devils, right?
Yeah.
You've heard of that, right?
Yeah.
I think to a degree, it's actually true. In the beginning, when the apostles were doing their missions work, I would say, with Jesus, you know, they were affecting local, they were affecting small, they were affecting one person. And as it started to grow, they started to spread into the region. They started to spread in the cities. And when they started to go into the territories, they were dabbling and they were coming against things that were not just, you know, if you can convert a city block, that's one thing. But if you start going after the city, you start going after the region, you start going after the state. Like, if we realize that God's kingdom is a kingdom, and kingdoms have ranks, and they have territories, and they, you know, the kingdom of England spreads from here to here. The kingdom of darkness is literally the same way. So there's territories, there's regions, there's places where, you know, there's strongholds. And you can see that. You go to different nations, and, like, you go to Haiti, right? And that whole area is plagued with witchcraft. The whole nation is just plagued, right? Or if you go to certain places around the world, there's just different things that are occurring there, and it's because of the region. So all this to say, though, is that when it comes to Maverick City, like, I'm an observer, I'm a watcher, so you can start to see someone either going up or going down just based on what they're putting out into the world. And we know somebody who was saying, you know, for years, or I don't know if it was months or years, who was saying, like, I see this, and God showing me this and this, and it just led up to them basically fulfilling what he had been saying was going to happen for all along. But I think it's the frog in the boiling water. At the end of the day, it's like, have you heard that metaphor?
No.
I don't think I have either.
Oh,
that's a Minnesota thing.
It's a Minnesota thing. So check this out. I love this. This is literally what compromise looks like. This is what living in sin looks like. So if you take a frog and you cranked up, like, a pot of boiling water, and it's just hot, it's bubbling, everything, and you throw the frog in there, it'll hit the water and it'll jump out immediately. So it'll react immediately, right? But if you put a frog in water and you slowly turn the temperature up as it sits in there, it'll start to get accustomed. It's kind of like getting into a shower, like steaming hot water, right away, ow! But after, like, if you go in and it's normal, and you go after 10 minutes, 20 minutes, your body's accustomed to the heat, right? So a frog, if you do that and you slowly turn it up, eventually it'll get to a point where the frog recognizes in its brain, whoa, this is way too hot, I need to get out. But the problem is, once it gets to that point of recognition, it's all of its muscle function in its body has been shut down because of the heat.
Wow.
So now it's consciously in this water, and it wants to get out, but it can't move because it's been debilitated, and then it dies.
Wow, that's crazy.
The frog in the boiling pot. So I think that's what it looks like when there's just this slow progression over time, because, like, an on fire Christian doesn't all of a sudden just go and live crazy all of a sudden, right? Like, there's a progression to it.
That's so true.
So I think that's what we saw, is like just slow little compromises here, just little things adding up, and all of a sudden, you can't really see right. I just don't think they were able to see right at a certain point. Like, and they had all these reasons, it's good promotion and this, and, there was justification, like, well, maybe he's reaching them, and you can start to justify things, and then reality hits you, and it's like, oh, dang, I have veered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah.
And it's a kind of have you seen the Pilgrim's Progress?
Yes.
I
Love that.
haven't.
So good.
Pastor recommended it, though.
Yes, amazing. In that show, whether you watch the movie or you read the book, that kind of happens to the character. Like, he slowly veers and he gets into this place where it says, don't fall asleep in this certain territory.
The enchanted ground.
The enchanted ground. Don't fall asleep here. And he gets in the enchanted ground, and there's like a spell over it. And if he falls asleep, he gets captured, and it's kind of like that, and then time passes and he wastes time, and he finally comes back, right? But I feel like that's what happens.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. I think especially too, like, because of them being in the light like that, like them being in the spotlight is what I mean. They have, like, they're so popular. They're like the most popular like Christian group right now. So they're so popular. So I can only imagine all of the parties that they get invited to, all of the industry events. There's this artist, this Christian artist, and I follow him on TikTok, and he's like big in the Christian industry right now. And he talked about how he went to a Christian like industry party. He got invited, and he didn't state specifics, but just being in that atmosphere, he said that something happened where like he kind of like compromised.
What's his name?
Just
kidding. Drop his name.
I'm like, I was about to say it. Everybody who watches this knows. I mean, he posted on his TikTok. It's no secret. It's Andres Baby.
Okay, got you.
So
he posted this.
He posted it on TikTok. Yeah. So it's not like I'm exposing him or anything. He posted it on his TikTok. So, he's like, I went to an industry party and there was compromise, and I repented, and I just wanted to share it with my followers. And so just thinking about like Maverick City, it's like how you're talking about there's probably compromise here, compromise there, like leading up to that, like, all the things that they're exposed to, like, I'm sure the opportunity is there, So just how you're saying, like, they need intercessors for them. They need people covering them in prayer, like, consistently. Like, that's so important, people just like covering them in prayer. But yeah, that's so true. You don't go from like on fire to just like a life of compromise.
Yeah. It reminds me of Samson. Right? Like, warrior on fire, like Old Testament, like beast, right? Old Testament Paul, like he's just a warrior, but then it's like Delilah comes back, and Delilah comes back, and Delilah comes back, and Delilah comes back, and just the persistence, and you just know when you're in that place, like there are persistent attacks that come over, and finally you're just like, maybe it's not, maybe it's not going to take away my strength. Like, maybe it's not as bad as I thought. Maybe I was just too legalistic. Maybe I needed to be more open-minded, like slowly. And then all of a sudden, he gets his hair cut off, and he doesn't have the glory, which is freaky. Like, to me, that's freaky. Like, I don't like that, but I don't like that. I don't like that. I'm staying away, but, I think it's important to have covering, and it's important to just stay on edge, stay on your toes. And of course, throughout all of history, there's men of God who, David, Samson, Solomon, like all these guys, they did the same thing, right? And I think we just need to learn from what God has given us as tools, like, stay sharp.
Yeah, for sure. And it's crazy. There's a saying, you guys have heard the saying, real recognize real, right? And, us being worship leaders, like my wife and I and stuff, like we've been around that, like the whole industry or the ministry, just in like in general, right? Like in, United States, Western culture, like CCM, contemporary Christian music, right? All that. I feel like, when you have like, whether it's Maverick City or whether it's like artists that have signed to like Bethel, Elevation, just big artists, right? That are out there worship. I don't know. I can honestly say this, like, and I really believe this. It's crazy because you can see, like, if you look at someone specifically, like, let's say their early stuff that they put out, like worship, whether it's like videos or music, you can feel an anointing on it. And it's crazy as people start like kind of like compromising, you kind of look at them now and it just, you can feel, like I said, real, recognize real. And it's funny because you'll get other Christians that like don't see that, but I just feel like maybe they're just not in tune enough, or maybe they're just not in worship as much as like we are. But Dre and I'm telling the truth, right? Like we can really feel like sometimes like we'll be like, man, like their early stuff was like better. Like you could just feel the connection that they have with God in that time, and then where they're at now. And I hate to like put people down or anything like that, because I'm sure that, let's say that there's an artist like that, and then now they're releasing music, it's still reaching people.
Yeah.
And it's reaching more people than I could. So I'm not like a hater or anything like that. I just want to make sure that's clear, because sometimes people are like, well, what are you doing? And it's true. Right? Like I hate people that like hate and stuff like that. But there is a fact, though, I feel like their early stuff is different, or you know what I mean? And it's just like, and that's not just Maverick City. There's a lot of people. There was an artist that left Bethel, and now I believe he's here in LA now and everything. And I remember his old stuff, and it was like, you could just feel his heart was so connected with the Father. And now he's still like, quote unquote, Christian, which that's super debatable. I'm talking about this one guy specifically.
That's debatable.
But yeah, I'm just like, I don't know, man. It's dangerous. You're in dangerous waters.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I hear some of his new stuff, and I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just not feeling it. Like, I'm just being honest. I'm just not feeling it. Like, it's just crazy. So, like I said, real, recognize real. And at the end of the day, like, you can kind of get by and kind of fake your way through, but at the end of the day, you're going to stand before God. I feel like we forget that sometimes, because it seems so distant, and it feels like, when you die, I know I felt that like growing up, like it almost felt like when you die, when you stand before God, like, you hear about all this stuff, it almost seems like it's like a dream.
Yeah.
Like it's like so distant and so far away. It's like cloud. Like I close my eyes, like it feels like it's like a cloudy place. Like it doesn't even. But it's like when you're there, it's gonna be it's gonna be realer than like this. Like that's crazy. When you stand before God, it's gonna be so real, and then there you're gonna be like, wow. And then by that time it's too late. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just crazy that the time that we're living in right now, it's wild. So, but yeah, I appreciate you guys' input on that podcast, because it was crazy. Like I said, it was just crazy for me to see that, like that we just had dropped it. We just talked about it, and then Tuesday it happens. And I'll just share this real quick. Marcus Rogers is a big guy that's like exposing and talking about things all the time and stuff like that. I feel like he had a big part in that happened and stuff. And a lot of Christian artists, hip hop, they like made videos against him, and they're like fighting with him in the comments and back and forth. It was just crazy. But I will say this, like, for us that call things out, and for us that like, and I'm not super like on Marcus's level, with calling people out and stuff, but still we have like a hard standpoint on what we believe in. I feel like it does pay off, because when we just sit back and don't say anything, I feel like it doesn't bring light to things. You know what I mean? I feel like there's a way to do it, but it's kind of cool to see like, okay, all this, it actually means something. People are watching, the message is getting out there. It's not just us hating or just trying to bring division. It's like, no, we're really calling our brothers and sisters in the faith like higher.
Yes.
Like we're really doing that, and it's having an effect.
Yes.
I believe if like Marcus Rogers, different people that didn't respond, or if they didn't make videos about that, maybe Maverick would have never, had an action like that. I feel like because of everyone speaking up, it caused that. And I want to add this real quick. Did you guys hear about a show? It was supposed to be a Disney show about like this demon girl or something that was going to come out.
Yes.
And then there was a big uproar about it, and now it's like canceled.
Yes.
What was it? It was like a demon child show or something like that, right?
Yes. It was literally called Demon. Demon was in the name of like the demon girl or something like that.
Yeah.
And the girl was like, she was possessed, and that's what the show was about. Yeah.
And ended up getting like canceled basically. Did you hear? You didn't hear about it?
I didn't hear about that, but it's like, it's just so like, that's what Disney has been building up to, because it's like, I grew up on That's So Raven. She's a psychic.
She's a psychic.
Wizards
so
of Waverly Place.
Like
Wizards.
we grew up super Christian. We love that show. I never saw it. I never even noticed that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But she would see it like,
I didn't realize
stare.
it until recently, because I have Disney Plus, and I was like trying to just watch a show. I was like, oh, I love That's So Raven. And God was like, she's a psychic. I was
That's
like,
crazy.
oh. I was like, you're right.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
It was just like building up to something like this to desensitize us into like, it's like Wizards of Waverly Place. They're wizards. They're casting spells,
Right.
So it's like, yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
We just got a confirmation in our audience. It's called Little Demon.
Little Demon.
It's called Little Demon.
Little Demon.
It really was.
Jeez.
Demon was like mentioned in the thing.
Little Demon. Yes.
Satan's daughter. Oh my
Satan's
gosh!
daughter.
It was like this.
It's all little demon.
Little demon.
Little Demon. That was the name of the show, Little Demon. That's out, Disney. That's out.
That's out.
Okay, I've been thinking about when we're gonna use this little pad or whatever, and that was like
That was perfect.
That little time.
Amazing.
It's crazy. But yeah, the show is called Little Demon, and like I said, it was like a big uproar and ended up getting canceled because of Christians speaking out and stuff. So I just feel like it's good that we do this. It's good that we get the message out there because. And I think eventually that show will probably come out eventually. Like things are getting darker. Let's just bring it up. You talked about, you just recently walked out of a movie, right?
Yes.
Black Adam.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about that, what you kind of saw and everything. Because I know there's a lot of people that watched it. Some people have certain things about it. I saw a YouTube video breaking it down and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, what was it about? What was it? Why did you guys walk out of it?
So, okay, I went to go watch this movie with one of my friends. Shout out to Zio. And we went to go watch this movie, right? We're like, oh, superhero movie. Like, yeah, let's just go watch it. The Rock's in it. Like, cool. So I had no idea what this movie was about. I just knew it was a superhero movie and The Rock starred in it. And that's all I knew. I had no idea what the plot was. So we went to go see this movie last week. And right off the bat, it started off in a scene which to me looked like Egypt. It looked like Egypt, the way that they were just like they were slaves. It was like a really like the scene looked like it was like back in the day, right? So it looked like Egypt. And then pretty much I might butcher the storyline, but there was this king that ruled over them and he was looking for these like specific like rocks that were in the mountain. So they were just like all the slaves were like plowing at the mountain trying to get like this like sorcery type of rock to like make like the magic happen for this crown that he was trying to put on. And so the king had a pentagram on his chest, and apparently like this crown or all the powers were made up of 6 demons. So that's what the movie starts off with. Like it's like demonic power. And so it was like 6 demons, 6 principalities pretty much. And that's what made up the power. And if he was to get all the pieces that were missing for this crown, then it would just like connect and he would be like the chosen one pretty much. And so that's what the movie is like based upon. It's about how this king tries to get it, but then this kid who was one of the slaves ends up doing it. He ends up getting like all the powers, then he becomes a chosen one. And anyways, like the whole movie is just based around demonic powers. Like that's what the whole movie, the whole plot is. And then it switches over to modern day, and then this like superhero who got the powers, they like bring him back to life or something. They like cast a spell, something like that. He comes back to life. And there is like this like modern day villain who's trying to steal his powers. And the modern day villain, his name was like Ishmael too. And then he the Ishmael character ends up like stealing the powers somehow, and then he's like in the bottom of the ocean, like dead pretty much. And then he comes back to life from being dead, and he comes out of the ocean, and it's legit Satan, like what everybody pictures Satan, like the red guy with the horns, and then he had a pentagram on his chest. So this guy comes out of the ocean as Satan, and that's where I walked out. So that's where I was like, yeah, no, like we're not doing this. I'm not gonna like sit here and watch this. But I just think it's so crazy because Pastor talked about Leviathan that day, and how Leviathan is like in the water, right? And so also too, Pastor talked about how like Hollywood is desensitizing people, and I think it's like they have, they were like pretty much, it was a movie like on what I saw, like the book of Revelations. It was crazy. And they're desensitizing people for the spirit of the Antichrist. Like the spirit of the Antichrist is already here. And I feel like like Hollywood is desensitizing people. So that way when the spirit of the Antichrist comes, it's like, oh, this was in the movies, It's like, we know how this ends. And it's like, no, you have no idea, But we have some friends who actually stood through the whole movie and watched it. And apparently like the Satan character dies. But we walked out at that point in time because I was like, yeah, no, I'm not watching this. But it's crazy to see that like this movie, it's like supposed to be like a superhero movie, is just straight up demonic, like not even hiding it. Like the powers are based off of 6 demons, and then Satan himself is in the movie with the pentagram on his chest. Like it's insane.
Wow.
I think it's crazy. Like, so Andrea and I, we way back in the day when the movie Doctor Strange came out, it's funny because we had no clue about like Doctor Strange or anything like that, like what he was, I guess. Yeah. We just like, oh, this Marvel movie came out, like let's go watch it, So we went, and then as soon as like the first couple of minutes, like it was like super like new age stuff. Remember, like it was like different like realms and like different
portals.
Yeah, it was portals, and like he was falling in the infinite like loop. It was just crazy, and like. astral projection, like just crazy stuff. I remember we were just like, all right, like let's walk out. We walked out and stuff. But I don't know, it's crazy. Like I was telling Dre, I was like, I feel like, okay, like in the comics, like back in the day and stuff, like it would say things about like magic and stuff like that. And so it's like, it's always been there with like comics, specifically Marvel. Like there's a lot of Christians that don't even watch Marvel anymore because of that. But I just feel like now with like Hollywood CGI and stuff like that, they're able to like increase what was actually like in the comics. So like if in the comics, it was like Black Adam, like he had magic powers. Now Hollywood is like, oh, well, magic. Well, like I feel like they almost do like a chart, and it's like magic, demons, devil, satanic, and then they just make it so much more than like what the comics like were. You know what I mean? So it is crazy that what Hollywood doing, like what Hollywood is doing, and like how you said, like it's almost like desensitizing and stuff like that.
It's pretty crazy because now that you brought that up, it reminded me. I think it was last year that movie came out. It's a Disney movie, right? And it's a cartoon. It came out on Disney Plus. It's called Soul. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it.
I heard of it.
So I was watching it. Someone who fresh out of New Age, right? And now a Christian. I was watching this and I was like, this is targeted for children, like for kids. And they're talking about astral projection. They're talking about shamanic healers. I don't remember what else they were talking about, but they had so many New Age terms in this movie and they made it look so glamorized. And so from someone who's came out of that, like, I've astral projected before and it was like one of the most scariest experiences of my life, and I would never want anyone to ever do that, but it's like they're here and they're glamorizing it. They're making it like, oh yeah, you should astral project. Like, yeah, absolutely. Astral projection is not it, So it's like, it's movies like this that are really like encouraging kids to like seek out these things, and just make it like, oh no, it's okay. Go ahead and try it. It really is desensitizing. And the agenda is for the children too, So it broke my heart when we were at that Black Adam movie, and there was like kids in the theater. You heard like the kids laughing, or just like you would hear the kids throughout the movie. So it's really crazy how it's like it's targeting the children specifically, So the agenda is crazy.
Was that a Disney movie that you were saying earlier?
Soul, yeah.
Soul.
It's a.
Don't they have like Coco's like another one, right?
Yeah.
There's like a Descendants or something. Is there
I've heard of that one.
Another movie, Descendants or something like that? I don't know. There's just I feel like lately they have like a bunch of like stuff for kids. When it comes to like spiritual stuff, it's crazy. It's weird.
Yeah, I heard. I didn't watch it, but the one Turning Red, there's like apparently like a séance or something. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and like the soul is being like pulled from the body, and they're showing it, and that I watched part of that. I saw part of it on TV, and I was like, this is crazy. Yeah. The thing about all of that is, it'd be one thing if they were advertising to people our age. If they were like, hey, this is what we want you guys to watch. Like, this is like what by popular demand, you're the target market. But when it starts going, and these Hollywood people, who a lot of the people in the industry who are running the industry are 40, 50, 60, 70-year-old old men who are, masterminds, wealthy, greedy, and they're like, this is what's going to produce the most wealth. This is what's going to get the kids this is what's going to get the most followers into our system. We're going to show them it. Literally, this is the way that they do advertising, and it's genius for business. But when you start intertwining like this, like evil things involved, it's terrible. So what they do is, like for us, right? We were young when Pokemon came out.
Yeah.
I was all into Pokemon when I was a kid. Yes. Super into it. Then when I became, this was just a couple years ago, like 20 plus years later, they released the game Pokemon Go for your phone, and it blew up everywhere, right? Like, and I was like flinging the ball. Like, I was like, oh, I can charge up, blah, 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 And I did it for a little bit because I had a roommate who was into it. But what I realized is they did this because they said, okay, how long is it going to take for, let's say, an 8-year-old to be old enough to now have kids who are 5 or 6 or 7 or 8? And we're going to wait for a second wave to release what we introduced them as kids to back to here, because now the parents are saying, oh, I grew up on this nostalgia, like I'm going to introduce my kids to what I grew up on. And now all of a sudden you've created a generational cycle in the buyers and in the consumers. And so I get really angry, like when you're talking about, oh, there's kids in there, like my blood boils over that. Like I get furious because you're literally going after the innocent of the world, and you are purposely deceiving them. And that's where I feel like there's people like who feel this way, who God, and I thank God, because speaking about Hollywood, like God is just slowly bringing me into that world. And my heart is like, I'm angry. I'm angry, And I just read this the other day. Jesus, when he raised Lazarus from the grave, when he found out Lazarus dies, he wept. But when he got to the grave, the Bible says he snorted.
Really?
It says he snorted. I was like, he snorted? Like what? Like is that is that what he did?
Yeah.
But I looked into that word, and it basically is like this like deep, like when there's indignation, fury. So Jesus was furious, and out of that fury, he did a miracle. So out of God's fury, he raised raised Lazarus from the grave, and then he says like, whoever bound him, unbind him. So I believe he was furious at death. He was furious at bondage. And out of that fury came the miraculous. So I believe that God is bringing people into the industry who have a fury and who have an anger and are going to destroy the works of the devil. And I'm just praying that there's an alliance in the industry, because pastor's been talking about it forever. Like the reason we watch these Marvel movies is because where are the cool Christian movies? Like, where are the good Christian movies, right? Like, where are the movies that are like, whoa, this is phenomenal. So I'm hoping and praying that there's some millionaires and billionaires who get their own network and start to produce content that kids are like, whoa, like, can you display what it looks like in the spiritual realm when people who give their lives to Jesus get baptized in the Spirit? Like, what does that look like in the spiritual realm? Like, all of a sudden, you get filled with fire and you're walking around and you can start to do these things like a superhero, right? Can we bring redemption to what we're seeing in the industry right now? And that's my hope. That's my hope in all of it.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you, since like the last couple months, you really stepped foot in like Hollywood and stuff like that. It's going to be amazing to see like what comes of that, because man, you have so many connections there and it's kind of just starting, but yeah, that's interesting. That's cool. I'm glad you like God's literally placed you there to like bring the light, like honestly. And then with Cristina like blowing up on TikTok, I just feel like God's like, he's setting us up in different spheres. And it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I just feel like in the time that we're living in right now, like we have to get it together and be like 100%, because God's definitely doing something.
Yes.
I've never witnessed this before. Like we've been in our old church, and shout out to them and everything, but and it wasn't even necessarily the church, but like in the time, in the 90s, 2000s, like I feel like nothing compares to where we're at right now with things that are happening, demonic, the good stuff, the bad stuff, the prophecy, the worship, the experience, like just everywhere. I feel like so much like I said earlier, the unity, like in the body, and then you have like the fighting outside, in culture, and it's just so much happening, and it's just like, man, we need to make sure that we are doing what's right. Like, you know what I mean? People are getting canceled, worship leaders getting canceled. There's just so much happening. I was actually in the shower earlier this morning and stuff, and kind of just getting ready for service in the morning, and I was just thinking, I was just like, man, this time that we're living in is just, I can't even describe like what's happening right now in just culture. Like there's so much stuff, and it's like we wonder why people are like killing themselves and just doing all these things. There's just like, I almost feel like there's times where you can look in culture and be like, man, there's just like no hope for us, like as humans. Like we're literally destroying everything. If you even think about like the cities and everything we're in, crime is up right now, gas is up, food is up. Like just, I feel like everything's just messed up.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. We're getting so close, I feel, to the end.
Yeah.
Things are like I said, things are really messed up, but then you have amazing things happening with the body of Christ. At the same time, the people that are playing, they're having a bad time in the body of Christ because they're playing games. So it's just wild. Like I feel like we can segue into so many pieces, but overall it's just like, we need to make sure we're doing what's right. And then you got the movies, you got Hollywood. It's just crazy. We can be here all day, but
can I say something really quick? Yeah. Just, maybe last comment for me. Like, I just want to say that I'm glad that the way that you stood, because I wasn't able to be here. I wish I would have been able to be here in the last podcast, but I wasn't able to make it. But I'm glad to see that the way, like, it's truly against the grain, right? It's truly against the grain. And the way that you stood with your conviction, and we've talked about this since the beginning, like, you're a person of conviction, right? And at the end of the day, like, that's what makes the man of God, right? And it was so encouraging to see that when you stood in your conviction and you said, this is what I see in the scripture, this is what I see it's happening, like this is the line and it's being crossed and this is what I believe is right, for that conviction to be spoken, for you to post it that Monday, and then for your conviction to actually come to pass, like to bear that reality bore witness with the truth. You know, like that is what people need. People need to see that. People who are watching, they witnessed that. They watched it on Monday. They saw it happen on Tuesday, and they're like, "This is the podcast. Like this is the Against Grain." Like, you know, you've seen The Chosen, right? In the beginning, the intro, it's all these fish, and then there's one blue fish swimming the other way. I recorded that the other day. I'm like, that's Manny, like that's Against the Grain, right? But like but the cool thing about that is, as the intro progresses of The Chosen, there's more fish that become blue, and there's more that turn around and they get awakened. And there's leaders who pioneer and who take that step, and then there's people who realize, dang, this was the truth. Like, because the truth bears witness. Like, at the end of the day, the light shines and the truth bears witness. And so I just want to say I'm like super proud of you, bro. Like, for you to stand like that. And I know, you know, you were by yourself, you were standing there, right? But it was just really cool to see that, you know, what we're saying and what we're standing on here, you know, at Against the Grain, God is proving it to be true, you know, and people need that. People need that in this hour with so many voices. Like, we need to have a voice of truth, and I'm so glad to be a part of what's going on here.
It's so good. Yeah, it's true. And you know, we're not here to like fight and everything like that, but I really feel like there's a biblical way, and even like, you know, having tough conversations even with other believers that we might disagree on things, but you know, with that, it's like that was a hard podcast. It was a hard podcast to shoot and everything, because I knew where, like, you know, it could go, but I'm glad we kind of both kept it civil. But at the same time, it was kind of like got a little heated too, and everything. And, you know, I was asking about Drake, and, you know, if Jesus would be bumping Drake. I was like, that's out. Like, that's not happening. Like, shout out to Mike, man. He's so good. And he just hit me up because I posted on Instagram, like, man, who's ready for the next one? Like, he hit me up, like, even on Thursday, he's like, man, I want to watch, like, you know, your sermon from Thursday night and stuff. So it's cool. So just in case anyone's watching wants to know, like, he hasn't like deleted me off everything. He hasn't blocked me. Like, we're still good and stuff. And he was like, man, we just got to connect and stuff more. And so I'm glad that there's people like that, because I feel like, you know, you can get into some things like that with certain people, and then they'll be like, oh, I'm not talking to that person again. Right. You know what I mean? Or even me, I can be like, oh, that guy's like, you know, how dare he do this and that, and he calls himself this and that, and he's doing this. I'm not going to talk to him anymore. I'm going to separate myself. Like, no, like, I'm just like, hey, everyone, like, you know, has their own opinion and stuff. But, and I shared this on the podcast, I was like, we can say that, like, oh, well, you know, that's his walk, this is my walk. At the end of the day, there really is only one walk. And I'm not trying to be arrogant and be like, oh, we have all the answers and stuff. But the fruit that I've seen at harvest time being produced, and the fruit that I see other churches when people are walking this certain path, I'm going for that. I'm going for that, because I've seen what it's like for other people to go down this path and be able to do this and be able to do that and be able to watch this and do those things. Like I said, I just feel like they're not living up to their full potential. And I say that very respectfully. I'm not here to downplay anybody, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's hard. It's so hard. Because like I said, it's just like, you don't want to fight, but you got to like stand for truth. It's just, it was a good podcast, and we were going in and stuff. It was good, but thank you guys just for being here and you know, shooting this podcast. Christina, thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Like I said, I was like, man, we got to get her back and stuff, because, you know, I know you have a lot of input and stuff, and people love you on here and everything, so it's cool. But with that being said, we're gonna sign off. Thank you guys again just for being on another episode in the books. And man, this is dropping on Halloween on the 31st, so this is good. I'm glad people can, you know, see this and see a different side to it. And if you guys are watching this out there right now, if you guys have any other questions or anything that you want to chime in or anything, you guys can hit us up personally. You can hit us up on Instagram. In the description of this video, I'll tag all of our pages. If you guys have questions, if you guys want to reach out to Christina, if you guys are out there watching, you guys were in New Age and have questions about New Age, whatever the case, you can hit her up. Anthony knows the word so much, and not to say that none of us do, but he's really a scholar. Like, he really knows the word. If you guys have questions on that, if you guys want to know what the Bible says on something, anything like that, you guys can hit him up. Obviously, I'm here for you guys too. Anything that you guys need, hit us up. Don't feel scared. Don't feel, you know, embarrassed or anything like that. Like, hit us up. Thank you guys for those that have reached out to us, have reached out to me. It's been a blessing just to connect with you guys. With that being said, we'll see you guys on the next episode.